Now, let's discuss how to actually write a report. We will walk through the practical process of writing assessment reports using our portal, which was built for this purpose. I'll highlight important features and talk through best practices for how to write a report efficiently. Before we dive in, I want to set one important expectation. The report template that you will see when I open the report is our standard. It's been carefully designed to ensure that every report is consistent, thorough, and clear for the reader. Follow the template as written. Do not rearrange sections or remove auto-populated content, and don't add elements that aren't prompted by the template. One of the most common things our review team sends back is content placed in the wrong sections. For example, supplemental data showing up where it doesn't belong, or ratings placed randomly instead of where the template puts them. If you follow the structure as it's laid out, you'll avoid most of these early revision cycles. Jackie and I will both talk you through different strategies. As a reminder, you can and should start writing your report as soon as S2 is complete. You can write it directly into the report writer or start it in the DSM prep. The interfaces are fairly parallel. I'm going to show you what it looks like if you go straight into the report writer. Before you can access the report writing portal, you'll need to confirm the client details. It's important you are using the client's preferred name and pronouns and have the references relations listed. Once you proceed from this screen, it's not possible to change these automated fields very easily, so please double check them. Also, it's not working on my demo case, but on this side of the screen, you'll generally see some summary metrics for all of the rating forms. Once we hit proceed, you'll see the report writing portal generate with a custom template for your case. You'll spend 95% of your time writing reports in the expand experience, which is found here. Let me acquaint you. All sections are similar. There is a template with a text editor, like a Word doc or a Google Doc on the left-hand side, and all of the information you'll need on the right-hand side in these tabs up here. You'll see as I move through this demo that the tabs in each section may differ given the relevant information required to complete this section. Another very important detail, the portal auto-saves as you go, but you'll notice there's also a save and close button down here if you'd like to write your report in a few sittings. Let's start with the background section. To save you time, this section can be auto-generated through the use of AI information, which pulls from the intake form and S1. When you're in this expand view, if you click generate content, if you don't see it, there will be a big green box here. This paragraph will appear that you can copy paste. It is imperative that you thoroughly read and edit it for clarity and correctness. AI is a tool and not a substitute for clinical judgment. Read every word and make sure it accurately reflects what the client told you. Correct any errors or misrepresentations. This section sets the foundation for your entire report, so it needs to be right. You'll see in subsequent sections, and we can navigate to those subsequent sections here with this arrow, that as we move through and go into the charting notes for each section, that AI boxes will populate with information synthesized from your charting notes. But I want to be very specific about what to look for, which you will usually see here, when you're reviewing AI-generated content, because the AI makes very predictable mistakes. First, it drops attribution words, words like reported, said, described, that attribute the information to the client. Without these, the report reads as though you're making the claim rather than the client. Second, the AI can generate non-affirming language that doesn't align with our neuro-affirming approach. Words like rigid, rude, or mean sometimes appear based on what they said in the charting notes. Third, it sometimes makes clinical claims on your behalf, stating something as an observation when it actually came from the client's self-report. And sometimes the AI can't differentiate between charting notes and direct quotes, so you'll need to be mindful of how this all represents the client's words. These aren't occasional glitches, they happen regularly. Once you know to look for them, they're easy to catch, but if you copy paste without reading, they can end up in your report very easily. I'm going to scroll back over to the behavior observation section. Whenever possible, we try to insert or provide you with the relevant content. But just like in the background section, we ask that you ensure all important details are included. The behavior observation section should reflect what you actually saw in the session with the client. Remember, this is the reader's only opportunity to understand what your experience was like with them in the room. Now we're going to talk about how we write the seven diagnostic domain sections. So this is where we have a really helpful system in place. We have a very robust template for you for this process, as I mentioned. We'll follow the same format for each domain section. Information from the clinical interview, including childhood evidence of the domain, behavioral observations. We automatically include any information from the rating forms, including both the self-report and the other report, and then we'll also discuss any supplemental information if we have it. On the right-hand side over here, we have several different tabs. We have the forms, which has all of the rating forms that you can see over here. Charting has all of your charting notes for this section, as well as on your side, AI recommended synthesis, which is not popping up on my side as I am in staging. The DSM-5 will show you any of your notes from your DSM prep form. So if you prefer to start writing a report there, this is where you'll see everything you've already written. The intake is a static copy. You likely won't need it, but it's there if you'd like to refer to it. And lastly, we have a quality check. This you can access up here by using quality check, or down here where you see regenerate quality check. I'll tell you a little bit more about this tool in a few minutes. On the top, you can see the colored box, the DSM-5 rating provided from the DSM-5 form. As I showed you in the report walkthrough, we automatically include an introductory sentence that includes your DSM selection before each section. So please make sure what you're writing matches what you've selected, or you can edit the DSM form by clicking here. Now let's talk through how you'll actually write the report. The easiest way to write these sections is to, when you look through your charting notes, read your charting notes, and then compare that to the AI boxes and whatever is populated there. If you notice that there are things populated in the AI that are somehow incorrect or don't really match what you were trying to say, an easy way to write this report is to copy paste that over and then make any edits that are needed. You'll make sure that each opportunity for AI or for inclusion of what we asked about is utilized. We need all of the information that you asked about in each section, including all the way down to the childhood section. This AI box will populate for you, and you'll be able to see, after reading what you wrote for the notes, if this aligns with what you'd like to say or any edits that may be needed for clarity or correctness. Another way to think about this is we have these yellow boxes that are essentially gut checks that you complete as you move through the S1 and the S2 with a client. What the AI is doing is taking the information that you selected from this box and then adding information from what your charting notes say down here. The AI is only as good as the amount of notes and quality of notes that you took. The goal is to make sure that each domain is thorough enough that the reader understands the client's presentation, but not so verbose that the report becomes difficult to read or very time-consuming to write each section. So I'm going to show you how I would do this. I'm going to do it the old school way without the use of AI. Yours will likely be a little bit easier as you will have the use of AI, but what we are hoping is that we address in the report something about each question that was asked. What I do for this is use the yellow box content. So I'm going to start my own paragraph here. I'm going to copy and paste this over. In the interview, she said she dislikes small talk, but can manage in situations where it's expected. Then I'll go down here and see what she actually said. She described that she would only go to social events if she had someone she was comfortable with alongside her. She described that she does not like small talk and prefers deep conversation. There's a lot more in here. I might add one more sentence, but I'm going to move on for the sake of this video. I'll then say, being asked how well she knows when asked about her ability to know what to do or say in social situations. She described that she often has a hard time telling when people are joking and is also unsure of when she may be speaking too much. What I'm doing in these sections is making sure that the content reflects what she actually said to me. I am giving her her language back and the way that she described things and putting that into a report with her words at the forefront. And I encourage you to do the same. A few more things before we keep going. We've added copy buttons in as many places as possible to make things as easy as possible. See up here that we have the rating forms. They auto-populate in case you forget and delete it. Copy button is right over here. Please utilize those as much as you need. You will also see that we have included some domain-specific behavior observations in each section, which you'll find in the charting section, and you'll insert them into the report. Finally, if applicable, the last part of each domain is to include any supplemental information. If this exists, this will show up under the Forms tab, and you can include a few sentences to explain what information was provided. This is somebody like a cousin who may be commenting on their social emotional reciprocity skills, and we're also going to take their language and use what they said and give that to the client as much as possible. Before you've finished each section and before you move on to the next, I encourage you to quickly review your work, and we have two ways to do that. One, as I mentioned before, is the quality check. It can be found up here on this tab and also down here. This is Prosper Health specific AI feedback. It identifies more clinical concerns, things like inconsistent pronouns, unaffirming language, things like that. We highly recommend using this before we move on. Additionally, we are a Grammarly company, so we do have Grammarly available to all of our clinicians, and that will be more utilized to catch things like typos and misspellings, things that are less clinical in content. You can see here once I run this quality check that we have several things that come up. One is template artifacts, which are these curly brackets. That is a template artifact that should not make it into the final report. Incomplete sentences, conditional placeholders, and then a couple of other smaller things. Anything in red definitely needs attention. Before we wrap up, I'm going to also show you the childhood section. This can be used to click around through the report and it will take you to wherever you click on. But you'll see in this childhood report that these sections look a little bit different. Their content won't follow quite the same pattern as criterion A and B domains will. In childhood, if there is an SCQ reporter, their information will generate here. All of the relevant ratings from the SCQ questions about when the client is age 4 or 5 will auto-populate just like the other sections. Then we'll always comment on what was shared in supplementals. We have very good data here, as well as what the client said about their childhood. A very easy way to make sure that this is comprehensive is To do about one sentence per diagnostic area or domain, and also including the information from the S1. So if you look at the charting notes here, this is the kind of question we ask in S1. When you were around age 5, what did you do? What were you playing with? Who were you spending time with? This is really good data. There's often really good and very rich things we can include in here. Same thing about getting supports in school, difficulties with language or motor skills. All of these things should definitely make it in. And then we will also make sure that we are including at least one sentence per diagnostic category. That might look like saying, regarding reciprocity, Avery described, and then including something here that she said about childhood, something that's important, something that stands out. Sometimes this can be a little bit redundant to what you've already written in the body of the report, and that's okay. We would prefer slightly repetitive over not clear enough. This is one of the hardest areas to get in a report, and so we want to make sure that this is very thorough. For functional impact, this also looks a little bit different. We'll address both what the reporter said on the ABAS, which is automatically included, as well as what the client said. These are clearly covered in the template, and being thoughtful about what the client endorses as their challenges is key. Finally, I want to show you our recommendations. As mentioned in the previous video, this is where you'll really add value for your clients. We have a recommendation bank on this side that we encourage you to use and make personalized selections across various categories. For example, if you have a client with executive functioning challenges who also needs medication management, you can go down and find the one for clients who are already taking prescribed medications. When you're done with all of your sections, you'll be ready to submit your report. The first couple of reports will take you 3 or 4 hours, but by your third or fourth, this should be closer to 2.5. I assure you that your very first section is the hardest to write, and it will be easier when you complete your first report. Think of these templates that are included in here, though, as your checklist. They are very helpful when you're new to report writing or when you're working with a surprising presentation. It is surprising to some that we don't report T-scores on our reports and instead focus on item analysis. The reason for this is simple. Item analysis drives to the heart of what we are asking in a way that T-scores don't meaningfully capture. In addition to the clinical interview information in each domain, you'll also be reporting on the forms that were filled out, as you know. We will be checking these for correctness and validity with each client, and in the report, we'll explain any discrepancies as needed. For example, if the client's self-report and their spouse's report are incredibly discrepant, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe the client minimizes their difficulties and is heavily masking, and therefore partner doesn't really know. That's very important context to be included. Finally, let's talk about the practical workflow of actually writing your report. There are two options, both are acceptable. It's just a matter of what works best for you and the way your brain works. One, you can write directly into this report writer, just like I showed you. This provides all of the information from the report right there as you write. Everything's in one place, and some people find this very straightforward. Option two, you can use the S3 prep form to write the clinical interview sections of your report. Some people find this very appealing, as by doing this, you're basically writing the report in a way you can then read to the client during the feedback session. The templates for each domain are available to you for you to see and utilize during that S3 prep form, so you can make sure that that template is being followed no matter where you're writing. With this approach of writing it in the S3, you prepare your clinical summaries ahead of time, and you can get clients' input and confirmation that you've understood them correctly before moving on. Neither approach is better or worse. Some clinicians prefer having everything in one place. Others prefer the workflow of writing for the feedback session first. Experiment with both and see what feels most natural for you and for your process.